Continuing on the theme of AI, we now have a session called The Age of AI. This is led by Illia Polosukhin, who is the co-founder of the NEAR protocol, a decentralized developer platform powered by sharded smart contract blockchain. NEAR's vision of a scalable, robust, and highly usable blockchain began in 2018 when they couldn't find a protocol to do what met the needs of their builders. NEAR protocol launched in 2020 and is focused on scaling global mainstream adoption within the blockchain operating system. Before NEAR, though, Illia worked in AI research at Google and co-authored the landmark paper, Attention is All You Need. Please welcome him onto the stage.
With this epic introduction, thanks for having me here. I will dive into the age of AI and get out of your way before drinks. So as I was introduced, I was working at Google Research previously and worked on what is powering now a lot of the AI innovation. And for those who are not familiar, the T in the GPT stands for transformers, which is a core model that actually enabled a lot of the current innovation. In 2017, I started NEAR AI, which was an AI startup, but we have pivoted into blockchain in 2018 because we actually needed to use a decentralized permissionless payment system to pay people to collect data that we needed for our AI project, and we didn't find any protocol that would match our needs. Now, for those who are not familiar with kind of history, language models have been around. It's not a new thing. This has been since the 1950s. And it's a kind of one of the core statistical models that you use to understand language. Now, there's been a lot of innovation in deep learning that's been happening in the past decade that actually led to the current innovations. And for us, the reason why we started to work on transformers was this idea that the current models of the time that we used at Google were not actually scalable enough to put in production on google.com. And so we ended up pretty much trying to simplify the model, throw away everything, and parallelize as much as possible. I'm not trying to compare it with NEAR, but very similar patterns was applied. And the idea was that you can now train these models that are way more aligned with hardware, with GPUs that are available on the market. And these models can be bigger, faster, and they're able to ingest a lot more training data. And that's what happened. We've seen since paper was introduced in 2017, OpenAI has been scaling the models and the amount of training data they used to get to what we've seen with GPT 3.5, with ChatGPT announcement, and now with this explosion of models across the industry. So the innovation is accelerating, right? The most interesting thing is the difference that you have with language models is that before, in the world of computing, you needed a human to interface the computer and interpret the results, right? You had a spreadsheet. It still was a person who read the spreadsheet and explained it to everybody else. Now these models can directly interact with the rest of society. They can write blog posts. They can send messages. They can be more present directly as a quote-unquote member of society. And this means there will be massive positive and negative impact of this on society as well, because you don't have this medium of a person between models and other people. And we need Web3 to structure that, because we need to figure out how to create structure around these interactions in such a way so that we have the protection, have the safety that we need. Now, AI needs a blockchain, right? So Eric was talking about using Akash, which is a marketplace for compute. There's also marketplaces for data, marketplaces for various other resources that you need, models, for example. But the really important piece is actually provenance. So right now, because of this AI tools are allowing to create so much more content, so much more automated, directly posting on social media across internet, we need a way to ensure the provenance of the content, to see where it's coming from, who authored it, even if it was reposted, taken screenshot and posted on Twitter. And so for that, the cryptography that we have been using, the hashing, the blockchains for tracking the addresses, this is what we need to have this kind of on-chain reputation maintained on a content level. So for those who are familiar, when internet started, it was fully unsecure. It did not use any cryptography. It was highly suspicious to all kind of fraud. And then HTTPS, SSL, was introduced, which created end-to-end encryption. And we need similar transition to happen now on a content level, that when you look at the image and a post, you know exactly who posted it, you know where it came from, and you're able to kind of navigate that. And this needs to be a societal change with browsers and kind of content media companies, etc., to introduce that. This is really important because without that, we'll just have overwhelming of kind of content generation across the world. The other side, we have more and more work done by AI agents, and AI agents also need more things to be done by people. And so we can have a gig marketplace that is run on blockchain that does not have any biases around who is doing what work and is able to directly route work to the right agent, get them paid, and have a verification process in it. And so, for example, on Near, we have a project like this that's been running, and it's been kind of employing thousands of people working for different data crowdsourcing platforms. But this is one of the examples where AI needs blockchain to scale the quality data acquisition and enable provenance as well of where this data came from, because you need to know that data indeed came from new sources and not was kind of rehypothecated from somewhere else. Now, Eric was actually talking a lot about open source AI, so I'll not repeat a lot of it, but at the core right now, we have centralized companies like OpenAI that are not just getting all the data, all the requests you're sending them. More importantly, they're able to, in any way, manipulate the answer. They are able to, including like if your email ends with Goldman Sachs, respond to buy or to sell or to do something. And this can be done by literally an engineer who works there, right? It's not like they have a sophisticated, cryptographic. It's not a financial institution that validates how the data is flowing. It's like a software company that just deploys some code on services. So it's clear that we need a more robust, provable way, or we need a more kind of open source models that exactly what training data came into it, such that you don't have manipulation. What, for example, just as an example, you can expect from Google Assistant, and I'm not saying they're doing it now, but there's no reason for them not to do it, is directly when they're running inference to run an ad auction and change the output depending on who pays them the most. And so when you ask specific questions, you'll see the answers not from the generic model, but based on what the ad they sold to someone tells them to do. So this is going to be happening with the centralized models. This just makes sense. They're making more money off this. And so we need an open source. We need something where these models and tools belong to you and are actually doing work for you. So we need a user-owned AI, right? At the end, you want a model that is on your side, that's not manipulated by anyone else, and is providing you the best results for you. And it needs to run on your device, it needs to have access to your private data, and nobody else should be able to access it. So this is part of the vision of longer-term vision that we're working on, but it's really important for our society to have this and not give up into centralized services that will provide you with an easy-to-use API. Now, not all models are possible to have for the user, right? Not everything is individual. We have groups of people, we have companies, we have communities, we have governments. And so we need community-level models as well. We need something where we can come together and say, this is a model we want to use for all of us. It has shared knowledge, it has shared access to data, and it works for us. And so we need a community to provide what is the safety of this model, right? The things that are safe in Netherlands are very not safe in a lot of other countries in the world. right? Like just the difference between different geolocations already makes a huge difference. And this is where Eric was talking about. You talk with OpenAI model, and it outputs you stuff sometimes treating you like a kid because they need to be universal model. They need to be responding in a safe way for everyone in the world, which is just an impossible task to do. And so we need a community level models. We need a way for community, for example, us to create one, to curate the training data, curate how we evaluate it, and provide potentially funding for research and oversee how things are done. Now, what this means is you can start having something more than just a copilot or assistant. You can have somebody who actually runs operations, somebody who goes beyond providing you inputs, but actually can create plan and execute it. And one way to think about it is, right now people are generally terrible managers. We as humans have limitation how many other people we can work with directly, and how much context we can maintain, how much personal context we know that what other people knows. And like running a kind of Web3 project and talking with hundreds of people every day, like it's really hard to communicate with a specific context to everyone, knowing exactly what they know. And what we can have here is these models that actually have the context of the whole business and are providing exact instructions or tasks to people given the context that that person knows. Provide exact summary of everything that happened in the company to that person so they are able to do their job the most effective way. And so I expect this to start happening where these AI models are starting to run businesses. And to do that, you need blockchain because they need to be able to operate with assets. They need to pay salaries. They need to be able to fire people and do all of this in transparent way such that it's accountable and easily to kind of inspectable by shareholders of this business. And obviously not everything will be done on public blockchain. You can use private blockchains for that as well. But this is the idea. And the interesting thing is shareholders can actually give feedback to this model in a natural language way, which this model is not like CEOs who can like decide if they want to do something or not, actually can feed back into the training data or kind of augmentation data. Now, if we take one step further, it's not just business. We can do this for governance. We can do this for running kind of different levels of governments, everything from cities or small communities to potentially countries. And again, this is where the core idea that we have, like the core problem we have with governance in general is principal agent problem, is where we elect people to do work for us, but they have their own interests always. There's no way for them not to have them, and we have the association. We have this kind of conflict. And with AI, we can have actually the model that doesn't have its own personal interests. It actually is able to poll other people or your agents on exactly the needs and the interests that you have in the constituency. Now, the cool thing about this in crypto is that we can do it now, because we have now digital states. These are the DAOs. These are the organizations that fully on-chain. All of the communication is public, either on-chain or online on forums. And so we can start doing this now and actually put the autonomous back into DAO. So for those who know, decentralized autonomous organizations, right, don't actually have much autonomousity. And we can have this coming back where the coordination itself of the DAO is done by AI model. And the interesting part here is that this actually solves a lot of the challenges that DAOs have been having, where they don't have a coordinator or like explicit coordinator in the DAO, or somebody who took that job is actually burning out because it's a really hard job and you have lots of people screaming in different directions all the time. So you have an ability to actually create something. And so just to give you an example, I'm not going to go through it, but even now you can start by summarizing the information that's happening on a governance forum and providing a very specific summary that is personalized for you given the context you know. And you can actually ask questions about it. You can kind of dive into this proposal. And again, this is done all based on summary of all the forum discussions and chats that happened. You can then also, after it's done, ask to explain the next steps, and they can actually be generated directly into tasks that go into some task management system and start executing and getting paid. Right? So you can have like a lot of the steps that right now are manual, sometimes don't have a responsible person, sometimes they do, but not always kind of effective, and as well have all the information that right now a lot of times is really hard to find be at your fingertips just to start using these models. Now, kind of stepping a little bit further, you can have this as a reinforcement learning agent, which is kind of the way we work as humans. We learn and act based on what's happening and actively trying to predict what's going to happen based on our actions. And so we can use that model to actually have the agent to predict what's possible based on different actions, like approving this proposal or doing something in the ecosystem, and based on that make some actions, right? Pay somebody or not pay somebody to do something. And so this can start replacing a lot of the decision making as well that right now requires a whole polling of all the stakeholders. And now stakeholders can just veto it or provide a higher level KPIs and metrics to optimize for this model. And so the bold vision here is an AI president, right? At the end, like, we will start small, we'll coordinate DAOs, we'll have, some of this, our on-chain organizations run, but at the end, we're gonna, start to scale this and see somebody who can actually run the whole ecosystem or the whole country without having this kind of principal agent. Putting it all together, we start with, on near side, with things like chain abstraction, where we abstract the blockchain. We don't want you as a user to know which blockchain you're using. You should be able to just use applications across all blockchains. And there's some AI tools that are used, everything from summarizing and explaining transactions for you so you don't look at 0x hashes to kind of giving you context on what's happening in the ecosystem. Then the next stage is edge intelligence, is ability to have the model that's owned by you, that is on your side, it's open source, you know where the data is coming from, and you're able to have kind of clear understanding that it's on your side. And finally, you expand beyond that to AI governance to be able to coordinate communities, ecosystems, and societies to actually work together. And we leverage Web3, the best technology so far to coordinate resources, with AI, the best way to summarize and kind of manage knowledge to come together to actually solve a lot of our existing problems in society. There's a lot of pieces that go into it on technology side. I'm not going to go too deep into this. We need provable decentralized inference. This is what Eric was mentioning. He's working on. We need data management and crowdsourcing, some of the things that near ecosystem folks are working on. We need that agent framework that I described. And we need AI-enabled DAOs that actually are able to interact with this. And we need a lot more solidifying on the LLM side, because right now LLMs are really easily manipulatable. They have not much kind of robustness in them. So there's still a lot of research and development that's going to be happening, but those are the vision and kind of pieces that are coming in coming years. Thank you. This is pretty much all, and now we can go drinks and have more questions there.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Illia. Much appreciated. That was terrific. Couldn't have finished it better for us, I have to say.